It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
We want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by educating and entertaining you through our board gaming adventures. Our podcast lands every Friday, and we create content for Instagram, Twitter, and the internets.
Yes. And this episode is sponsored by TabletopRenaissance.ca, located in our hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. They have their web store up and running, so check out TabletopRenaissance.ca for your board game and tabletop miniature needs. All right, Matt, we got a special episode tonight.
All right.
We have a guest on named Mondo Davis, who is a game designer that I found up on the TikToks.
Oh, wow. Well, welcome, Mondo. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, y'all.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Mondo, tell our listeners about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm an independent board game designer. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been designing for about 5 years and currently have four designs under contract that will hopefully be coming out within the next year or so. And I've been doing the TikTok thing for a few months now. Just kind of I have a channel that's primarily focused on board game design, which is something that was kind of absent from TikTok when I first got on there. So that's been a pretty fun process getting engaged in that.
What's your channel's name?
Games by Mondo. Yeah,
Awesome.
all one word there.
So today I thought we would go over the design process, maybe if Mondo has any advice for new designers, ask him some questions, and talk about some of his upcoming releases, and maybe talk about why TikTok is a good platform as a game designer.
Sweet.
That
Let's
sounds
do
good.
it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So Mondo, when getting into to be a designer of board games, where should one start? How did it start for you, I guess?
I think every designer probably has a different story. I know for me, I actually was not a hobby board gamer at all. I was more or less unaware of the hobby at all when I first designed a board game, because I had this idea for a game that was based on an old computer game that I used to play as a kid that was no longer something you could find.
Hold on. Let's press pause here. What was the computer game?
It's called Escape Velocity.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So it was this old space simulator that ran on like an old Mac OS systems that were replaced, and it just kind of disappeared. And I don't know, when you think about games that you played as a kid, it's like you guys probably experienced that too, where you just sort of have these really fond memories of that experience in the game itself, even if the game was really crappy or whatever. So I was in that space, was kind of mourning the loss of that game. And thought, man, I wish somebody would make a board game about it. That could be fun, and had that thought and tried it out.
So what was Escape Velocity? What was that about?
Yeah, so it was a little like whatever the equivalent of Flash was back then, space game where you owned a ship and you flew from like system to system and landed on planets and did missions and upgraded your ship and shipped cargo, and kind of standard like space exploration game. I mean, there's a ton of them that are similar, I think, in theme. But I think it was the first game I played as a kid where I kind of had that like compounding progress experience where I was like, making these little upgrades and like growing my ability to do things. And I don't know, like it was just this kind of novel experience that it was the first time I ever had that in a game. So I really loved it and played probably way too much as a kid.
Awesome. So did anything come out of that game at all, or is it something you kind of made? Sounds like our game.
Wait, so you started making this game, and then you're like, no, this game it's just as terrible as the game I remember playing, or what? What happened there?
Actually, quite the opposite.
Whoa, it was awesome, and you didn't. And you
no,
hit it?
No. Okay. It was terrible. It was always terrible.
Okay. But
I didn't know that it was terrible. Like I said, I didn't really have any experience in with the hobby or in the industry. I play tested it with a lot of friends and family who were just super impressed and excited that they knew somebody that made a board game.
That's awesome.
So their feedback was just overwhelmingly positive. It weren't people that I care about and are great people, but they didn't know enough about board games to be able to give really, helpful criticism or feedback. So I just had this idea that like this game was awesome because everybody that plays it loves it. So I should figure out what the next steps are, and actually ended up pitching it to several publishers, including Rio Grande and Mayfair.
Wow.
At conventions.
That's pretty hard to do that. So that's pretty like my hat is off to you there. That's
Oh,
awesome.
I was painfully overconfident.
Well, you know what though? I think that's like a good lesson because then you obviously like you learn, right? And
Oh yeah,
the
for
key is
sure.
to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And that was, I learned all about like how you contact publishers and how you make a sell sheet and how you pitch a game and all those kind of things that I do all the time now. That was, I just had this crash course in that through using, trying to shop this terrible little game around.
So after that initial experience that you had, what was kind of the next game or the next step that you took to push you into the realm of being a board game designer?
Yeah, I mean, once I figured out that game wasn't any good, I still really love the process. Like I really enjoyed, the whole experience of putting a game together and bringing people around together to play it. And so I kind of dabbled in some other designs and that sort of thing. But then the first game that I signed was a game called Colorfield, which is supposed to be hitting Kickstarter this fall from 25th Century Games. And that game came out of kind of a shift in my approach. I had been playing some games and really learned how to pay attention to the mechanics and the decisions that designers made on a mechanical level versus, starting from a thematic point and trying to make a game about a specific theme. So that shift that happened probably, 2.5 or 3 years ago started me down that path of like creating games that just work better. I don't know, that are more interesting and that are more fun to play. And it's been some positive growth since that. It's been fun to see it all kind of unfold.
So what's Colorfield all about? I have no idea. I'm sure no one does either, so it's gonna be hitting Kickstarter very soon. But go for it.
Yeah. So Colorfield is a tile laying game where players are making a painting. They have a 2x3 grid of square tiles in front of them, and the tiles have different colors on all the four sides of the tiles. And the players are trying to basically swap tiles out with the tiles on their board to match up the colors and try and make kind of big swaths of matching color and that sort of thing. So you score points for matching the colors on the tiles with what's around it. And very, very kind of simple design, but it's got a cool little thematic thing because you actually have a painting, on the table in front of you that you're like manipulating and improving as you go.
Sounds
It's
really
kind
cool.
of the gist of it.
Yeah, I definitely would love
Yeah,
to see it in action. I think that'd be the concept sounds really neat.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, the best part about it is my wife, who's an artist professionally, did the artwork for it.
Oh, nice.
And when Chad bought the design or licensed the game, he bought the artwork with it. So my wife's artwork is actually on the final version of the game, which we're really excited about.
That's awesome because it's like a collaborative effort right there between you and your wife. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's the best part of it.
Did you know you were going to be a team at that point? I mean, I guess you knew you were going to be a team when they signed it, but did you know you're going to be a team when you started designing?
No, I mean, I think I chose to make Colorfield into a game about painting because I wanted to work on it with her.
Aww.
But we haven't really collaborated on much since then, so that I don't know that we can kind of bill ourselves as a design team. But she's definitely
now she's like, leave me alone. I got things to do.
Yeah, she knows how much work it takes now, so she's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, she like swoops in her mind. She's like, oh yeah, I could help with the art. And then she's like, oh man, that Colorfield game was a lot of work. I think I'll just walk over here slowly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find a project that pays more. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
And so when you're in the design process, obviously you're going to go through times where you kind of hit like a roadblock. What do you do for yourself to get you out of that mindset where maybe you're thinking you can't complete this project or you kind of want to give up or whatever?
So I spend a lot of time designing, and I typically have anywhere from like 4 to 7 projects that I'm like at some stage in the process on. So for me, that's really helpful because if I'm stuck on a certain game, I can kind of shelve it, move on to the next one and kind of let time pass and come back to it with a fresh outlook. Because I mean, yeah, I don't really have any other way to approach that kind of block situation. but I know that creativity comes when you start working.
That's fair.
So having something to work on is usually pretty beneficial for that. So yeah, it helps to have multiple projects going.
How much of your process do you think is like adaptation? Like you work on something and then you're like, oh, I gotta pivot or I gotta change how this works. I mean, like you're saying you have a couple projects. Is that like, do you like to like sit on something and move on to another project and then hope that an idea comes to how to change the game to make it better?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I usually have one or two that I'm like mainly focused on at any given time. And I mean, board game design is such an iterative thing. It's, you know, it's like the process is putting it in front of people and figuring out what's broken and then fixing that and then making a new version of it and like just continuing to do that over and over again until you feel like it's done. So yeah, I think it's all adaptation. It's just kind of this big cycle of adaptation of you know, applying feedback and trying to fix what you need to fix. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't even know what my question was, to be honest with you, but
No, you're good.
Okay.
So actually, it's a good segue to my next question. I know at some point when we started Friday Night Games, Matt and I and a group of our friends had the idea of making a board game. You know, once the other people found out how much work it was, it easily fell apart. But how many like iterations or versions of the game do you go through before you know, I guess, that this is the final design? Like I no longer need to work on.
Can I refine that question?
Yeah.
What's the most iterations and what's the least iterations
There you
you've
go.
gone through?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think that every designer that has, you know, been working at it for a while probably has that experience where there's just like a game that just kind of fell on their lap, or like they feel like after a few playtests it was ready to go. That's definitely the exception. I think that the fewest iterations I've ever had was probably like 5 or 6, meaning like from this first version that we put in front of playtesters to the version that we, you know, licensed, signed. Yeah, like 6 maybe.
That's pretty impressive.
That's like crazy, you know, like that doesn't happen. That's not like something that you can ever count on happening. I co-designed my game Mansplaining, which I co-designed with Fortezza Elise. It just like it came together, like, and it helped that there were 2 of us working on it, and we were both pretty committed to getting done on it. But as far as like a lot of games with a lot of iterations, that's most of them. But I have one game that I've been working on for the better part of 2 years, which it's about trying to like revitalize this rural small American town, like bring people back to this town that's kind of dying out from depopulation. And it's got this emotional core that I'm like really trying to find, you know? And because I'm so committed to like the emotion of it, it's like it's never good enough kind of a thing. Like I'm never there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hold on. I want to deep dive into this for a quick second. What town are we talking about? There's obviously something in there that this town means something to you.
Oh yeah.
What town is that? Is it where you grew up?
So it doesn't represent one specific town, but my family. So I'm from St. Louis. Grew up in St. Louis, and you know all of my family all comes from small towns in the Midwest, and most of them either don't exist or you know are just kind of I don't know what the right word there is, but in bad shape. So.
Yeah.
When you feel an emotion like that, I mean, as a creative person, my instinct is to like try and use whatever my medium is to bring that to light or do something about it, right? So as a board game designer, I was driving through like South Carolina, I think. We were on some back roads and went through all these towns that were just like empty. I just kind of felt this sadness of like, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of like experiences here that are just gone and that are leaving because of the way society is kind of progressing, which I'm not saying is good or bad, but you know, the feeling that I had was like, okay, I want to do something about this. I want to, you know, communicate this or create some sort of experience around it. And so that's just where you go is like, all right, I'll make a board game, see if I can make a board game about it.
That's cool. No, I think
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
that's amazing because obviously you take something that's personal to you and you're trying to put it into put it in like basically a story for someone else to understand what you're trying to portray, right? I think that's amazing.
It actually sucks because all my other games are like, I've got a cool mechanic. Let's figure out a theme that's fun, that fits. You know, it's like I'm not like, you know, emotionally invested in any of my other designs the way I'm in this one. So it's kind of frustrating to not be able to just walk away from it when it doesn't work.
Maybe you should
Kinda
just make
wish
it
I
like
could.
the saddest board game ever. Like every result just makes you want to like cry. Like no matter what you do, people will never come.
Yeah, there was at least one version that ended up being something like that. But
Oh.
Hey, that's not, like the game sounds actually pretty interesting based off your short description. I hope it comes to fruition for you.
me too. Actually, there's actually a company that is interested in it on a development basis, so that it may be happening someday, but we'll find out.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So I guess that segues into my next question. So what really motivates you and why do you make board games?
Did that question just pop up while we are talking?
No.
All right. I thought I saw it pop up.
It's actually from one of Mondo's TikToks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what motivates me to design board games?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've always had a creative medium, and of all of the creative mediums that I've participated in or used, like board game design I think is the most exciting. The results of it are a lot more fun and interesting than like writing songs or writing poetry or things that I've done in the past. Like I love creating community and the capacity that board games have to like create shared experiences for people that bring people together and create community. So being able to put my creative effort into something that has that result and effect, and that I've experienced as a board gamer myself, like I've experienced that through other designs, so that gets me excited. Is certainly definitely a motivating factor for me as to why board games. But I don't know. I mean, I think that everybody has creative capacity. I think that some folks are more attuned to it than others. I think some folks are more like committed to it than others, and mine just comes out through making board games.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess on that note, what advice do you have for people who are trying to get into designing games or they're new to designing?
Yeah, a lot of advice.
Yes, we're going to be on this podcast for the next hour discussing this question, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a few tips or whatever whatever the whatever tips that you felt really helped you.
Sure. I think that when people start out, a lot of times they're really focused on getting their idea right. They want to do a lot of planning before they actually make a prototype or get something on the table. And I think that in my experience, and I think if you talk to a lot of designers, will tell you that making a prototype should be done like as quickly as possible. Your idea, like the initial idea, doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be developed. Like until you have pieces on the table, you're not going to be able to create a board game. I mean, which makes sense because, like I said, it's really iterative. I mean, you have to put it down. You have to see how it works. You have to see what doesn't work, and just completely overhaul everything after each iteration until it comes together. So get a prototype to table as quickly as possible would be my easiest bit of advice, and don't get hung up on that.
Yeah, don't worry about what things look like. Just get things down there
of course.
so you know what.
Yeah. I took like an online, when we were creating our game, I took like an online board game creating class, whatever I found on the internet. And that was one of the big things, was like make a prototype. It can literally just be stick figures, and like it doesn't need to be beautiful. It just needs to have your basic ideas and just go.
I think new designers can be intimidated by how like amazing the board games that they play are.
Yeah.
As far as like artwork and components and stuff. And you're naturally going to compare yourself to that, what you know and what you have. You're going to compare what you have to what you see other people doing. So yeah, I think that some new designers might shy away from that, but like it's so crucial just to like get something on the table.
So what would you give to a person who is just ready to give up? What would you say to them?
Well, I guess there's a lot of context there that I would probably...
Okay, they made like 90 versions of a game, and they're just like, they get a bunch of play testers, everyone's complaining, and they haven't had that aha moment. Like, should they keep going? I'm asking for a friend.
I mean, I think that assuming that whatever you're working on is the only thing that you should be working on, or like the ideas that you have towards a particular game are the only ideas that you are going to have, or the only good ideas that you're going to have, I think that's pretty detrimental to the process. I think that like stopping what if something is frustrating you, or you're ready to give up on it, like stop and move on to something else, like start something new. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that the work that you do on a game design doesn't disappear if you stop working on it. Like your work, it's still there and you can always go back to it. And I feel like that's pretty healthy. And not just in board game design, like in
life.
In life in general. Yeah.
I'm writing these notes down for myself, by the way, just so our listeners know.
So we all know that the current climate of the board game industry, obviously there's a lot of unknowns, especially with like the drastic wait times and expenses and shipping and cardboard and all that stuff that's happening right now. How does that affect you as a board game designer, or does that affect your process at all, knowing that that is possibly something that could affect how your game is produced later down the line?
As a designer, I don't really think about it.
Okay.
I feel like getting a game signed in a normal climate is really hard. And the work that I do to get games signed, like it's the same amount of work either way.
Fair.
And if it's harder to get a game signed because of the climate, it was already really hard anyway. So that doesn't really slow me down or change my approach. And honestly, I mean, I've gotten as much response from publishers in this climate than I have in other climates. Like, again, in kind of normal times, I think that publishers are still trying to make games, like it's a different process and it's more expensive and it's harder. But like, if a publisher is going to be a publisher, they got to find games to sign. Yeah. I mean, it might mean that I have to make games that are better than they used to have to be in order to like really stand out, because fewer games are getting signed. But like, that's something I want to do anyway. That's kind of
it
pushes you.
Motivation right there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not. I mean, it's never been easy to sign a game. But so I don't necessarily like feel that on my side as a designer. But obviously, there's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of trouble for a lot of publishers and gamers and people all across the industry. So feel for those folks for sure.
I what I liked about some of your, what's the word I want to look for? Your take on, I saw one of your TikToks about like the take on how this climate is increasing the prices of the board games at the retail level. I like your take on it because you said that we're actually paying less than what the board games should be. Like you think they should be more money because like of what's actually involved in the design process. And I thought that was a really cool take of yours, so I just wanted to say that. I think
that's absolutely true. I mean, if you get into like contracts and how much artists and designers and even publishers make off of board games, it's like should be there should be more money in it based, but so yeah, I stand by it.
You're like, without going into the specifics, there should be more money for everybody into it, and I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it just shows that like the people who are making games are doing it because they love doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the current climate, and if people don't know what we're talking about, it's just like games are getting more expensive due to shipping and things like that. Some companies are eating those costs, and that actually hurts the publisher also.
Yep.
Because they promised a Kickstarter a certain price, and they're like, well, this is what we promised, and we don't want to ask $50 more shipping, so this is what it is. Yeah. And to that note, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like if the games were more expensive, then that hit wouldn't be as drastic. Right.
Yeah.
But unfortunately it is. So
I'm just waiting for those emails to come for more shipping, because I still want the game, so I'm gonna still pay for it, right? So I personally don't care if you need more money to ship the game so I can get it.
Yeah, but we're also like content creators / we want to help the industry. There's a lot of people who would be like, no, you now it's free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or people that legitimately can't swing it, can't afford it. Like that's real.
That's real. That is also.
I feel like there's more trolls in our group though than there is. That's true. I mean, no, you're right. You're right. There is people who can't afford it, but I feel like the trolls are the ones who are vocal about it.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
That's true. Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned a couple games that are coming up. So you have Colorfield and Mansplaining are your upcoming releases that are good to go.
Oh, can we talk about mansplaining a little bit?
Yes. I know you were interested in it.
I am, yeah, because just before you get into it, at work we always have a mansplaining joke. So I'm a peer systems analyst and we have a girl on our team, and one joke we always do is that we're always mansplaining to her, whether we are or not. So And then she just calls us out on it all the time. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What is this game about?
Yeah, so Mansplaining is a party game. Again, like I said, I co-designed it with Fortessa Elise, but it's so players take turns mansplaining a topic. So you have a card with a topic on it that's something like how to mow the lawn or how to do dishes or kind of a simple task.
How to get in the kitchen to make us a sandwich. Oh, this is a terrible one. Oh, I'm gonna be killed by my wife.
Yeah.
No, we stayed away from stuff like that.
That's
but
good. But for the not safe for work version though, you have my permission to use what I just said.
Thanks. But yeah, so players take a turn mansplaining this topic. They have a minute to do it, but they also have 4 detail words. So these are like kind of more obscure words that aren't related to their topic. So like, convalescence or leather or something like that. So they have to try and like mansplain, how to mow the lawn while sneaking these unrelated words in.
Oh man.
In a way that hopefully the audience doesn't catch them, because afterwards the audience is going to guess what the topic was and what those detail words were, and then you get points for guessing and all that. So
That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I think we should keep it on Michaela's radar. She'd love that game.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun to play test. We've gotten some really good reactions from it, so we're excited about it.
That makes sense why earlier you said it only hit 5 iterations before it came out, because the idea is fun, right? So you're like, oh, this iteration is really fun, so throw it out there fast.
Well, and once we had that central idea, it really just became about like tweaking the cards and point systems or whatever. It was relatively easy.
Do you have a date for when that's being released?
It's early next year. The original idea has kind of been pushed back just because Breaking Games, the publisher, is actually putting a lot of resources into marketing it right now, which has been fun. Fortessa and I have been able to kind of participate in that process of figuring out how we're going to promote it. So early next year is the best I can do. But Breaking Games they're the ones to follow for updates on that. I think they have a mailing list.
Let me check something real quick. Breaking Games is who I think they are.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, man. Because, now that I know who it is, they have, like, a great marketing team. Like, they did Rise of Tribes, and they actually contacted us just to, like, have fun with it. I mean, we didn't send us a game or anything, but it was really cool because their whole they, like, made a whole Instagram or a Twitter account and was just, like, completely talking in, like, a totally different... They're talking like they're a tribe from whatever the game. I'm like, this is insane. So, like, I'm looking forward to see what they do with this.
Yeah, they've got a lot of folks on it, so it'll be fun to see.
Awesome.
Awesome. Do you have any other games on the horizon other than those 2?
The 2 other games I have under contract, they're a little bit farther out in the pipeline, but one is called Into the Woods, which is just like it's a card game where you trade cards out to try and match sets. Very, very simple, but that's due out with Gold Seal Games. And then I have a game called Sorrento, which is like a stacking game where you draft and stack little house meeples on top of each other to try and hit patterns and collect sets and that sort of thing, which is signed by Weird Giraffe Games. So probably like late 2022 for both of those.
Awesome.
And then hopefully Small Town someday.
Yeah, I'm actually really intrigued about that, so I'm gonna keep a close eye here about that because that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So we connected over the TikTok app. So how do you find that platform as a board game designer to get your advice out to the masses, I guess?
I really enjoy being on TikTok, which has surprised me just because my perceptions about it, early on when I first heard about it are probably pretty similar to other people my age, that it seemed really juvenile and silly. But it's just a great social media platform. Like, their algorithms and their AI is like just really good at showing you stuff that you find interesting. So I was really drawn to it because of that, and then realized pretty quickly that there was almost no board game design content on TikTok, like at all. There's maybe 2 or 3 accounts that kind of regularly talked about board game design in some capacity. So I figured I'd try my hand at it. And part of it, what drew me to it, is just the opportunity that was there where, if you get on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or other platforms, there's just a ton of resources for board game designers. Just lots of communities around board game design and experts and professionals, out there and interacting. And since that didn't exist on TikTok, I thought it would be fun to kind of create that space where conversations around board game design could happen, or hopefully folks that are brand new to designing or just interested in trying it out could kind of have someone like me that, I'm not like a veteran or an expert on it, but I've been doing it for a few years and I've kind of seen some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and wanted to jump in. It's been really positive. I mean, it's been fun getting to know people and having people kind of show me what they're working on or ask questions about the process, and yeah, it's been fun.
Nice. Have you seen any like downsides to it at all?
To TikTok or to like board game designs? Like, what do you like?
Yeah, TikTok for board game designer as the platform.
Hold on, let's just say, what do you hate about it?
What do I hate about TikTok?
Yes.
That's a fun question. I mean, I don't really hate much. I mean, like I said, it's really curated. So what I see stuff on TikTok that I enjoy and that I want to watch, like there's probably a lot going on TikTok that isn't that exciting or that I would hate if I got engaged with it. I don't know. I feel like being one of the first board game design focused accounts has been like challenging in that like there's just not a lot of awareness. There's not a lot of exposure. Like people aren't on there for board game design or aren't looking for board game design on TikTok because it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I feel like it would be hard to try and portray board game design, which is the challenge that you obviously overcame, right? Like, I guess my question would be like, I haven't seen, I don't even go on TikTok because I feel like it would annoy me. So I'm sorry I haven't seen your stuff, Mondo, but
that's fine. Most people haven't.
How do you feel like, I guess, like, how creative do you feel you have to be to, like, produce a video for it? Like, do you feel like you have to be more creative than you would another platform, or?
I probably should be more creative than I am. I've kind of settled into, like, I'm just focused on doing what I want to do on there, which is, like, just create informational content about board game design. So I'm not really focused on, like, getting, going viral or having a huge follower list or have videos that have hundreds of thousands of views. So with that approach, it's been really satisfying because I've just, I don't know, like I'm not disappointed that I'm not getting all sorts of attention on it because that's not really why I'm on there. Like I'm on there because I want to provide kind of a service and space for people.
To me, it sounds like you're on it almost like a small blog for yourself, right? You pop on, you do a minute. I'm assuming you're doing like a minute talking about something that you learned or what you want to tell people, new people, old people, whatever. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, most of my stuff is I'll just like pick a topic like contracts or co-designing or something like that, and just kind of talk about my experience or what to expect or how to make a sell sheet or whatever. Just like one thing. And since that's such kind of a niche thing, like the people that interact with that are really into it. Like they're really excited to talk about stuff like that or ask questions or whatever.
I think that's awesome. I think that's a really good way to reach people, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's been effective. It's also been cool because I've been able to connect with, I mean, like folks like you, which has been great, different content creators across the board game world, but also with a lot of publishers. A lot of publishers are on there and don't have 10, 20, 30,000 people following them, like, because they're all relatively new to TikTok. So I mean, I've been able to connect and like pitch games and, like make relationships through TikTok just because it's not like a saturated medium, which has been really cool.
Yeah. Have you tried other platforms?
I mean, I don't.
I'm just curious.
I don't.
I'm just curious if you tried any other platforms or if you felt other platforms just don't offer the way TikTok does, or why you think it's easier to produce for TikTok than you would another platform. I guess I just threw like 3 questions at you in a row, but
No, that's good. I'm tracking. I mean, I use other platforms just personally, but it really is like the saturation of it. Like I would never try to create, I mean, something like a YouTube channel where I'm talking about board game design just because there's so many people that do that. I feel like it would be, if my goal is to like reach an audience when those platforms are so saturated, it'd be a lot harder. So no. TikTok works for what I'm trying to do, and I'm happy there for sure.
Awesome. That's cool because I mean, I guess you basically found a niche that didn't exist and you added to it. I think that's great.
Yeah, I've only seen yourself, and I believe their name is Becky from Rainbow Rabbits. I think are the only
Yeah.
two board game designers that I've seen on TikTok that kind of give a behind the scenes look at the process, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, Becky's awesome, and she has self-published her game, so she's got on that another side of design, which is fun because people ask me about self-publishing. I'm like, go check out Becky's account because she she knows that stuff. I don't.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world too. It's a whole nother
Yeah,
world.
for sure,
Awesome.
for sure.
Okay, how about this? This? Mondo, top board game, go.
Blood Rage.
Blood Rage? Oh wow, that's
Blood
a
Rage.
complicated one. Okay, what would your second one be? I haven't played Blood Rage, so keep going until we when I played.
Probably Battlestar Galactica.
Wow, I've heard good things. You know they're remaking that, right?
Are they? I did not know that.
Yeah, they're remaking it. They didn't get the Battlestar Galactica theme.
I had before the pandemic, every year I had a annual board Battlestar Galactica game where for my birthday, that was always my birthday party. It was like my gamer friends would come over and we'd play Battlestar Galactica.
That's a pretty complicated game to get your friends to play for your
Oh,
birthday.
yeah.
That's why you're pulling the birthday card, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like a 4 or 5 hour thing too. So it's like this is it. This is the only time of the year you have to play this with me. It's my birthday.
And they're all like, "Oh, fine."
That's all right.
No, actually, I was right. It is called Unfathomable. So it's a
Okay.
remake of Battlestar Galactica, but with the Arkham Horror theme.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because they couldn't get the Battlestar Galactica theme. At least that's what I heard. Maybe they just didn't want to do it Battlestar Galactica again. I don't know. But yeah,
So it'd be a
it's
little dated.
basically the same game from what I heard.
I don't know about you, Matt, but Mondo's sparked some inspiration in me to get our game back out there.
I'm not doing it. So, I mean, that ship has sailed 2.5 years ago, buddy. I think this is it.
That's true. Yeah.
What was the game? What was it about?
I think we could talk about it. It was like a simple
Yeah.
card game.
Yeah, we just sat around. We just played like it
We're
was
in
kind of like rock paper scissors esque mechanic, and basically we were just trying to battle each other out, last man standing type thing.
We had a lot of fun playing it. I don't know
Yeah.
if everyone, kind of the same moment that you were saying, like when you brought it to your family and like they're all like super positive. We had a couple friends play it and they're like, yeah, it's okay. We're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
maybe it's not as good as we thought.
And then I think we tried to make it like overly complicated for what it was, and then
Right, and then like I guess like the other part of it too was that we were trying to self-publish, so we were trying to learn so many different things,
Oh, yeah.
and we had like a group of us, and we all wanted to do it together, so it's kind of like a fun project, but it became less fun for them. It started becoming work when you started realizing how much goes into it.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of
and only like John and I were the most motivated for it. But really, me and John just wanted to do something creative, I think, and that turned into podcasting, which we really enjoy.
Sure. Cool. Well, if you ever want someone to take a look at it,
yeah.
if you get back on the train,
All
on the
right.
wagon.
Mondo, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. You can find Colorfield by 25th Century, published by 25th Century Games on Kickstarter early next year, and Mansplaining, published by Breaking Games a little bit later on in the year. Awesome. Do you want to plug
yeah.
your socials again? Your TikTok, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so if you want to check out my TikTok, the handle is @GamesByMondo, and you can visit mondodavis.com for all my links and updates on games and stuff like that. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks again. We really appreciate you coming on. It's actually very insightful, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, thanks for
Cool,
joining us.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was fun.
Awesome. If you like what you hear, don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or follow us on your favorite streaming platform. You can check us out on Instagram at FridayNightGames_official, Twitter at FridayNightGMS, TikTok at Friday Night Games, and on our website at FridayNight.Games. And again, I am John,
I'm Matt.
and it's Friday night, so let's have some fun.